Imagine getting sacked from your job, publicly humiliated in front of your colleagues, and then when you ask your boss why you were fired, they just shrug and say absolutely nothing. No explanation. No justification. Just silence. Now imagine that boss is a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and you are a serving government minister who has just been demoted out of the cabinet in what can only be described as a chaotic shambles of a reshuffle. Welcome to Keir Starmer's Labour Party, where loyalty means nothing, competence gets you nowhere, and even ministers in his own government are openly calling him out for being an incompetent manager with the leadership skills of a wet flannel. Ian Murray, the former Scottish Secretary, has just launched an absolutely devastating public attack on Starmer, and let me tell you, this is not just a minor disagreement. This is a serving minister going nuclear on the Prime Minister's judgment, management style, and basic human decency. Buckle up, because Labour is imploding in spectacular fashion. Quick favor. If you are already loving this political chaos and want to stay updated on every disaster Westminster throws our way, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Over 94% of you brilliant people have not subscribed yet. It is free, takes 2 seconds, and genuinely means a world to us here at British Mirror. Cheers if you did. Right, let us dive into this absolute car crash. So here's the situation. Ian Murray, the Labour MP for Edinburgh South, was serving as Scottish Secretary in Starmer's cabinet. By all accounts, he was doing a perfectly decent job. He was popular among his parliamentary colleagues. He was navigating the tricky waters of Scottish politics. He was keeping his head down and getting on with the work. And then, in September, Starmer decided to shuffle his cabinet, and Murray got the boot. Just like that, removed from the cabinet. Replaced by Douglas Alexander, a Blair veteran who has not been in Parliament for nearly a decade. No warning, no explanation, just a brutal public sacking that left Murray completely blindsided. Now, getting reshuffled out of a cabinet position happens. Politics is brutal. Sometimes ministers get moved around for strategic reasons, or because the Prime Minister wants fresh faces, or because they have made mistakes. But here's the thing that makes this absolutely extraordinary. Starmer never bothered to explain why he was sacking Murray. Not at the time. Not in the days after. Not in the months since. Murray has asked repeatedly for an explanation, and Starmer has given him nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just stony silence and a complete refusal to justify the decision. That is not just bad management. That is cowardly, disrespectful, and frankly pathetic. Murray has now gone public with his frustration in an interview with Holyrood magazine, and honestly, it is absolutely brutal. He said the hardest part was a complete lack of any recognition for doing a half-decent job. The second hardest bit is having no explanation for why he was sacked, and even now, months later, he still does not have one despite asking on multiple occasions. And the third bit? He did not think he deserved the public humiliation of it all. He genuinely does not know why it happened, and he feels like that is an unfair gap. And you know what? He is absolutely right. If you are going to sack a minister, you owe them an explanation. Basic human decency demands it. Basic leadership requires it. But apparently, Starmer could not be bothered. The backlash to Murray's sacking was immediate and fierce, particularly within Scottish Labour. People were furious. Murray was popular. He was doing a good job. And Starmer had just publicly humiliated him for no apparent reason. The outrage was so intense that 24 hours later, Starmer was forced into a humiliating climb down and offered Murray a new role as a junior minister covering both the Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the Department for Science. Now, think about that for a second. If Murray was not good enough to be Scottish Secretary, why was he suddenly good enough to be Deputy Minister in 2 major UK departments? It makes absolutely no sense. It is a kind of U-turn that screams panic, damage control, and a Prime Minister who has no idea what he is doing. Murray revealed that it took him 5 hours to decide whether to accept the new position. 5 hours. That is how close Labour came to having a former cabinet minister walk away from government entirely, because Starmer handled the situation so badly. Murray said his big questions were, why was a new role not offered to him at the time? Why has a decision now been made? And if he was not good enough for the Scotland office, why is he suddenly number 2 in 2 major departments? These are perfectly reasonable questions, and the fact that Starmer apparently could not answer them tells you everything you need to know about how chaotically this was handled. But here's where it gets even better. Murray revealed that his wife, Miriam, was absolutely furious with Starmer. And I mean properly, genuinely angry. Murray said, and I quote, "It is fair to say that Miriam was absolutely furious. She thought Murray was massively underappreciated because she had seen firsthand how much he was balancing family life, Parliament, being one of only 37 Scottish Labour MPs, serving in government, constantly travelling between his constituency and around Scotland. She watched him work himself to the bone for this government, and then watched Starmer sack him without even having the decency to provide an explanation. She was most angry about the fact that the Prime Minister did not have an explanation. And honestly, can you blame her? If your spouse was treated like that by their boss, you would be furious too. This is not just some minor spat between colleagues. This is a serving minister publicly calling out the Prime Minister for having terrible management skills and poor judgment. And Murray is not some backbench rebel or troublemaker. He is a loyal Labour MP who has served in government and was doing his job competently. The fact that he feels comfortable going this public with his criticism tells you just how badly Starmer has mishandled this and how little respect there is for the Prime Minister's leadership within his own ranks. The timing of this interview is also absolutely brutal for Starmer. Labour is currently in crisis mode. The polls are apocalyptic. Starmer's approval ratings have fallen off a cliff. There are rumours swirling that potential rivals are positioning themselves for a leadership challenge. Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, is widely seen as being on manoeuvres, whereas Streeting, the health secretary, has been raising his profile and positioning himself as a potential future leader. Even Angela Rayner, the deputy prime minister, is reportedly considering her options. The local elections in May are increasingly being seen as a crucial moment that could determine whether Starmer survives as Labour leader or gets pushed out by his own party. And into this already toxic atmosphere, one of Starmer's own ministers has gone public with devastating criticism of his leadership. This is not the kind of thing that happens when a prime minister has a firm grip on their party. This is what happens when discipline is crumbling, when loyalty is fraying, and when people sense weakness at the top. Murray's intervention is not just about his own personal grievance. It is a sign that Starmer's authority within Labour is collapsing. Murray is a popular figure within the Parliamentary Labour Party. When he was sacked, there was widespread surprise and anger among MPs. Many thought he was doing a good job and could not understand why Starmer would get rid of him. The decision was seen as inexplicable, unnecessary, and politically damaging. And the fact that Starmer could not or would not provide a clear explanation just made it worse. It looked like chaos. It looked like poor judgment. It looked like a prime minister who was making decisions on a whim without thinking through the consequences. What makes this even more damaging is that Murray is not calling for Starmer to resign. He is not launching a full-scale rebellion. He has accepted his new role and says he is enjoying his meaty policy portfolio. But he is making it clear that he was treated badly, that he deserves an explanation, and that Starmer's management style leaves a lot to be desired. That kind of measured but devastating criticism is almost more damaging than outright rebellion because it sounds reasonable, it sounds fair, and it makes Starmer look even worse by comparison. Murray also said the experience taught him to shout about his successes more, which he said is a lesson Labour ought to take ahead of next year's Holyrood election. He said it is up to Labour as a party to shout about their achievements because no one else will do it for them. And you know what? He has a point. Labour has been absolutely terrible at communicating what they are doing and why it matters. They have been reactive, defensive, and seemingly incapable of controlling the narrative. Starmer's government has been defined by what it is against rather than what it is for, and that is a massive political problem. The fact that a serving minister feels comfortable publicly criticising the Prime Minister's leadership style is unprecedented in modern British politics. Normally, ministers toe the line. They defend the government. They present a united front. The fact that Murray has broken that convention tells you just how badly the relationship between him and Starmer has broken down, and how little fear there is of consequences. If Murray does not think Starmer has the authority or the political capital to punish him for speaking out, that tells you everything about how weak the Prime Minister's position has become. This is not just about one reshuffle or one minister. This is about a pattern of poor decision-making and terrible communication that has defined Starmer's leadership. From U-turns on policy to chaotic messaging to a seeming inability to give straight answers, Starmer has consistently looked like a prime minister who is out of his depth. And now his own ministers are saying it publicly. That is not a sign of a government in control. That is a sign of a government falling apart. The comparison to previous Labour governments is stark. Tony Blair ran a tight ship. Dissent was rare, and when it happened, it was dealt with swiftly and firmly. Gordon Brown, for all his faults, commanded loyalty from his team. Even Ed Miliband managed to keep internal criticism largely private. But Starmer? He is struggling to maintain discipline even among ministers who are still in government and supposedly loyal. That is a spectacular failure of leadership. What is also telling is that Murray has received no consequences for this interview. No public rebuke. No demotion. No angry response from Number 10. Just silence. Again. The same silence that Murray got when he asked for an explanation for his sacking. It is like Starmer does not know how to respond, so he is just hoping it goes away. But it will not go away. This interview will be quoted in Parliament. It will be referenced by opposition parties. It will be used as evidence that Labour is in chaos and Starmer is a weak leader. And there is nothing Starmer can do about it because the criticism is coming from inside his own government. The broader context makes this even worse. Labour is struggling in the polls. The public is turning against them. Key policies are unpopular. The economic situation is not improving.